Hey guys, before I start this video, I wanted to take a minute to make an announcement. One of you reached out to me recently, George Dixon, I believe was the name, and you told me about a car show that was going on in Virginia next weekend on the 20th. So while I won't be able to attend the car show, I did want to take this opportunity to reach out to any of my subscribers who may be in the area. This is Powhatan, Virginia, I believe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Powhatan or Powhatan. Well, here's the point. If you live in that area or near that area, then you know what I'm talking about, because I'm sure people mispronounce it all the time. But the car show is going to be Saturday, October the 20th from 9 to 4 at 2393 Rocky Oak Road. So this is a benefit car show for a fallen state trooper, I believe. So the proceeds are going to go to help the local food pantry, to help that fallen officer's family. So anyway, if you guys are going to be in that area, I would urge you to stop by, hang out, make a donation, and enjoy the car show. If you need to know any more information about the event, you can contact Wes at 804-833-1644. And like I said, if you guys are in the area, please stop by. They could use the donations. It's for a good cause, guys. So I just wanted to let you guys know. Hey guys, welcome back. So this is going to be another one of those little impromptu videos that, what happened was I just finished cleaning the intake up here, and I was about to start bolting the fuel rails back on, blow, there's still some water on it here and there, blow all this off. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make a little video of kind of like some how-tos, some do's and don'ts when you're dealing with these LS style intake manifolds. A lot of what I'm about to say is opinion. A lot of it is fact, and then some of it is just some little tips and tricks, things like that. And actually, some of the little tips and tricks falls into the realm of things not to do. Just things that I see people on the internet suggesting or doing sometimes. What's funny is you'll usually see like one person suggest a bad idea and then nobody will actually ever do it. It's just everybody, you talk to on the internet will be like, yeah, you should do this, you should do that. And then finally the one guy tries it and he's like, yeah, that sucked. Okay, well, might be covering a few of those little things here in just a minute too. So we're just going to start from scratch, guys. When you're cleaning this thing, and this is, I don't care if it's a truck intake or LS6 intake like this, soap and water is all you need, or something like Simple Green. If it's really greasy, you want to cut the grease. And you want to make sure you clean inside as best you can too, guys, because the LS engines are known for sucking a lot of oil into the intake. So make sure you clean out where your throttle body goes and everything, and try to get down in your ports here, all that. And I'm dropping stuff, oh freaking well. Guess I should have took the hose completely off the back, huh? But anyway, that's the first thing, guys. When you're cleaning, you don't have to use any kind of harsh chemicals, just soap and water. That's pretty much it. Now, the next thing I want to cover is your gaskets, okay? Yes, guys, these gaskets are reusable to a point, okay? What happens is, if you've got an intake, and this one is actually a pretty good example, these gaskets, this intake, I don't know if it's ever been off this engine before now, and these gaskets have compressed down to the point where they don't feel like they stick up everywhere. They feel like they're flush, okay? And when you're dealing with something like that, that's when it's time to replace it, guys. Like, if you can still feel the gasket bubble up a little, then you're probably okay. But You can get a complete gasket set for this for less than $20 from Felpro at pretty much any auto parts store. So if you have any question whatsoever as to whether these are going to seal or not, just go ahead and replace them, guys. I mean, it's $20, right? And whatever you do, I've seen people do this. I've actually seen it suggested on YouTube, on Facebook. Do not try to put RTV around these gaskets, okay? Number one, it's probably going to cause it to not seal more than it does to seal. Number two, depending on your application, you're not going to be able to just set this manifold straight down. You're going to have to kind of worm it back a little bit. And if you've got RTV on this, you're just going to make a freaking mess, guys. So if you're that worried about it sealing, just buy the new gaskets again. And now that I've said buy the new gaskets, that brings me to my second point, which is these foam seals here, which mine are soaked with water right now because I just finished cleaning, okay? When you buy the gasket set from Felpro, it comes with new foam pads. Use them. Use the foam pads, guys. Freaking use them. I'm going to say it one more time. Use them. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people just rip these off and they don't put the new foam pads on. They're here for a reason, guys. The same people who rip these foam pads off and don't replace them are the same people that tell you you need to like silicone around your knock sensors and things like that so water and debris don't get down into them. That's what these are for, guys. These pads will keep the water and debris out of your silicone or out of your knock sensors, okay? That's the whole freaking point of these pads here. So, you know, if you tell people to rip these pads off and then you tell them to put a silicone dam around their knock sensors, use your head, guys. GM already thought of it. That's why they're here. As a matter of fact, you can still see the imprint right here from the top of my knock sensor boots on the front and back here. So what does that tell you? That tells me instead of putting a silicone dam around the front and the back of the knock sensor areas, you could have just left the freaking pads on, guys. Case in point, I started to clean this, but then I decided to make this video. So that's why this is wore out. But there was a hard line right here, and you can see how nasty it is right here. And this, I haven't touched this, guys. Like, look, it's all clean. And you can, again, you can see the line right here from where that pad was, okay? That pad right here and right back here, you can still see the line from the back pad. That's keeping water, that's keeping debris, that's keeping all that stuff from coming in here. So if you just use the factory pad, there's no need to build a silicone dam around your knock sensors, guys. I mean, it's like you're doing away with the factory solution. You're creating a problem and then trying to create a half-ass fix for it afterwards. It's just, yeah, just keep the pads, guys. So you can probably tell that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. The next pet peeve of mine is people who grind all this flush, guys. I mean, you know, they'll take and they'll cut these ribs off and you know, whatnot. They'll grind all these ribs off. Well, here's the thing. I don't know why they're here, but I know what they do, and they provide structural support for the floor of the intake. So the thinner you make that floor, and when you take these crosshatch structural supports out, what you're doing is you're causing a situation where the air entering could cause the floor of the intake to resonate, and you end up with a noise when you're at wide open throttle, like whoa. You know, I mean, it's a weird noise. It does happen, guys, but just again, it's a modification that does you no good whatsoever. Removing these ridges from the floor of this intake is not going to do you anything. It's going to gain you, what, a 1/4 of an inch of clearance at most. I mean, it's pointless, guys. Now, if, you know, I've heard the argument that, you know, if you're running a 4-corner steam port system, you know, you need clearance. Okay, well, that's fine. Lay your freaking steam lines on here and cut you some notches where they go, where it'll lay on there, guys. Don't just smooth out the whole floor. I mean, it's pointless. It's like, it's one of those things where you can't even say you're doing it because it looks cool, because nobody's going to freaking see it when you're done. It's going to be underneath. So forget about that. Moves me on to a modification that I do recommend. There are companies out there that make an insulation material to go on here, and the purpose of that is to prevent heat soak, okay? The radiant heat passing from the top of your engine into the bottom of the intake manifold. I don't know what kind of gains these are worth, but honestly, guys, like, I've got material laying around that I use just for that type of stuff, and I'm going to show it to you now. This is Supersonic Matte. It's made from Cool It Thermotech. You get a whole sheet of this for like 20 something bucks, but it's acoustical and heat control matte. And basically, you know, it's just like this, guys. It's got a reflective layer on it. It's self-adhesive backing. So what I'm going to do with this before I put it on, I'm just going to cut out a piece right here in the middle, because again, I want to keep my my pads here, or I'm going to be putting new pads on, but the pads are going to stay. So, you know, I'll just be cutting a piece to fit here and maybe here, you know, wherever I can fit it, and just stick it down. And all that's going to do is reflect some heat from the top of the engine. Does it work? I don't know. Honestly, on a street engine, I don't see how it can make a huge difference, but when you're talking about cooling down, you know, your air temps inside the intake, I mean, if you've got the stuff laying around, it's worth it to just go ahead and cut a piece and put it in there. The pieces you buy that are pre-cut require you to remove these pads, and, you know, they take up this whole space. They're not going to seal out the moisture and the debris the way these pads do. So at that point, you know, again, you've done away with a factory fail-safe, and you've created a problem. So at that point, I guess you're going to have to do your little air dam thing, or see if, you know, the new pads will fit on top of that after you lay the mat down. But for me, I'm just going to cover this section in the middle. No, it's not going to cover the whole intake, but you know what? A little is better than nothing, right? A lot of you have made suggestions to me that I should get an LS6 intake. Well, as you can see, this is an LS6 intake. So in case you guys didn't know, after 2001, GM started using the LS6 intakes and the revised LS6 blocks, engine blocks, in all Corvettes. So it don't matter whether it's a Z06 or not. If you've got a 2001 and up Corvette, you already have an LS6 intake, and you already have an LS6 engine block. You just don't have the LS6 valley cover. So, but what's cool about that is, since you've already got the LS6 engine block, you can put the LS6 valley cover in there without having to grind anything in the valley to fit the baffle in there, because you've already got an LS6 style block. I do want to say, although I have never had to replace a throttle body gasket, the same rule applies to the throttle body gasket as the others. If it's not sticking up past the edge, if it's not bubbled out, then you probably need to go ahead and replace it. This one's fine. And like I said, guys, you know, my cousin actually gave me a whole package from a GM dealer that shut down with about 20 of these throttle body gaskets in it, and I have yet to use a single one, because I've never seen a throttle body gasket that was so flattened out that it couldn't be reused. Now, since this isn't really a tutorial on how to install an intake, it's just like a little tips and tricks thing, I'm probably going to speed up me putting these gaskets and stuff on. But and I do want to say, guys, you know, if you've done some of this stuff I'm saying not to do, you know, I'm not trying to offend you or anything, but, you know, like stuff like this, guys, the factory spent a lot of time and money figuring this out. And you're not going to hear me say this often, because you know I'm all about modifying my cars. I mean, I built a freaking junkyard turbo kit on the last project, for Christ's sake. But, you know, some stuff is better off just left alone, guys. Okay guys, next tip is lube. It's not just for the bedroom. When you go to put your fuel injectors back in your fuel rail, I recommend using Vaseline. If you don't have Vaseline, you know, a little engine oil. And if you don't have engine oil laying around in your garage, then you probably shouldn't be working on your car. But just, you know, you don't have to glob it on, guys. Just a little coat of some kind of oil-based lubricant, whether it be actual oil or, like in my case, I keep a little jar of petroleum jelly out here. This is from like 1982 or something, but I just keep it out here handy for stuff like this, just for this stuff. But yeah, always lube them, guys. You don't want to tear an O-ring as you're trying to put these back in. And if you don't have them lubed up, you know, the lube just makes it easier. Lube makes it easier to get everything in, guys. Remember that. Up till now, most of what I've been telling you has applied to pretty much any vehicle that you've got a LS in. This one might be a little more specific to Corvettes and F-bodies. But anyway, guys, this is pertaining to the installation of the manifold. These last two bolts, you're going to have to put these in before you put the manifold on, but they can hang down and drag and get in your way. So what I recommend doing before you put them on is just take you a little piece of electrical tape like this. Oh, sorry. Get it on the inside of your washer there. Get a little piece of electrical tape, put it between the head of the bolt and the washer, and just leave it sticking out so it's going to be easy to get off later. Do that on both back bolts. That'll hold the bolts up that far, just enough to keep them from dragging and getting in your way when you're trying to put your intake back on. Then once you set your intake on, you just grab the tape and pull it, and the bolts will drop right into place. Obviously, you can't just set the intake straight down where you want it to go, but you don't want to drag the intake either, because you could pull your gaskets out of the little pockets on the intake or whatever. So guys, just don't drag it. Make sure, you know, set the intake back as far as you need to go, then come back here, plug everything in. After you get the intake setting to where the back's about right here, you know, go ahead and plug all your stuff in. Plug this in, plug your vacuum line in. You know, this actually goes on the other side of the engine, the knock sensor harness. But, you know, get all that stuff situated. Then don't scoot the intake back. Just lift it up about 1 inch, move it back, and set it down where it goes. How could you guys let me put my fuel rail on backwards and nobody even say anything? All right, guys, got my intake back on, everything hooked back up. The last modification I want to show you guys is the throttle body bypass. I actually covered this in another video, but just in case you haven't seen that video, here you go, guys. Normally, you have a steam line that runs from right here to right here on your throttle body, and then runs out and runs over into the radiator over there. Now, this is a real simple modification. I don't know if it's worth anything. To be honest, I'm kind of skeptical, but it does eliminate one more possible coolant leak. So basically all you do is take your factory line that used to run from the radiator to the throttle body, get you a elbow or a 1/4 inch barbed two-way male fitting and another short piece of hose. Tie that together and run it straight here. So you're just bypassing the throttle body so you don't have any more hot coolant flowing through the throttle body. The purpose of this is to warm up your throttle body in the winter time so it doesn't freeze up. If you live in a southern climate, that's probably not an issue. If you live up north where it gets extremely cold and you do drive this car in the wintertime, you may want to think twice about doing this. And like I said, I honestly don't know if it helps or not. Supposedly it keeps from heating the throttle body up. Similar to the mod we did on the bottom of the intake, you know, just trying to keep the heat soak down. But anyway, guys, if you want to do that, that's up to you. That's pretty much with anything I've told you in this video, you know. Just kind of going through, like I said at the beginning, some of it's opinion, some of it's fact. But if it's opinion, feel free to make it your own if you want to. All right, guys. So like I said several times throughout the video, not trying to piss anybody off, start a bunch of arguments, but here's the thing, guys. I started this channel a little over a year and a half ago, and the main purpose of this channel was to help people learn through both my successes and failures, you know, my mistakes and ups and downs. That's why I show you guys everything. But if you don't take anything else away from this video, what I want you to take away from it is don't believe everything you see on the internet. Hell, don't believe me. Do the research yourself. When you're trying to do something to your vehicle that, you know, you've seen on the internet, all I can tell you is use a little common sense, and before you just start hacking or cutting or grinding on your car, take a second and think about what you're about to do. Think about how it relates to the way the engine operates. Think about why GM or Ford or whatever you may be working on may have designed something a certain way, and then think to yourself, am I really solving a problem, or am I just creating a solution to another problem that I'm about to create? A good example of that is removing the little pads, you know, the insulation pads that I showed you on the bottom of the intake. You know, like I said, a lot of people will say to take those pads off, and then that same person will tell you, well, you need to build a dam around your knock sensors so garbage doesn't get in there. Well, guys, that's the purpose, you know. So when you remove those pads, I said it earlier, but again, when you remove those pads, what you're doing is you're not creating a solution by building that dam. What you're doing is you're creating a problem and then coming up with a second solution to that problem, when you wouldn't have even needed that solution in the first place if you wouldn't have created the problem. I hope that makes sense. But just use common sense, guys. Again, I hope this video helped you out. If it did, share it. Give it a thumbs up, like it. If you're not a subscriber, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more. And get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you guys next time here on Bad Luck Garage.